Hey YouTube, Kira Tweak here, bringing you all an update to my Shiranui Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for September 2021. It's been a while since I've updated the Shiranui deck. I think the last update I had was post-Savage Strike, which was the last time this deck got support. For those of you that don't know, this was a very fun deck used in Duel Links, but also a very fun deck in the actual Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, with the main focus being all the different Shiranui synchro summons you have in your arsenal, but also benefiting from the fact that each time different Shiranui monsters are banished, they have an additional monster effect, which can easily be set up with the various tuners we run in the deck for the Shiranui monsters. I'm very, very happy with the results of the deck since the last update. I feel like, the ratios that you have with zombies in this deck just add for an overall power structure in the deck to make use of. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the Shiranui non-tuners, I run 3 Shiranui Squire. When it's normal summon, you can special summon 1 Shiranui Spectral Sword monster from your hand or deck. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn, except for zombie monsters. And if this card's banished, you can draw a card and then discard a card. And you can only use each effect of Squire once per turn. So the banish not only can help to set up more zombies in your graveyard, but it also gives you resources to make use of in the graveyard using this card, with the fact that you'll special summon out your Shiranui Spectral Sword, a level 2 tuner. And with those two right there, you have your level 6 synchro play to go into. Not only that, but you set up your monsters in the graveyard to then be banished with cards like Shiranui Spectral Sword, which we'll get to when we go over the tuner monsters. And I also run 3 Shiranui Spirit Master. When it's normal summon, you can special summon 1 Shiranui monster from your hand or graveyard, except for Spirit Master, but banish it when it leaves the field. And also when it's banished, you can target 1 face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it. You can only use this effect of Spirit Master once per turn. So the fact that it doesn't even limit it to monsters being able to destroy your opponent's face-up continuous spell and traps, field spells, you name it, just that fear overall banishing this card means your opponent's definitely going to want to stay clear of your graveyard. Call by the Grave is definitely a card they're not going to want to use against this deck, but just having all of this setup is a big powerhouse altogether to rely on. You have that setup in the graveyard with other cards and their banish effects, but the destruction really comes down to Spirit Master and the additional tuner setup this card can use. For the last of our 3-ofs for the Shiranui monsters, I also run 3 Shiranui Solitaire. You can tribute 1 zombie monster to special summon 1 zombie type tuner with 0 defense from your deck. If this card is banished, you can target one of your banished Shiranui monsters, except for Solitaire, or up to 2 instead if Shiranui style Synthesis is on the field, and special summon them. You can only use each effect of Solitaire once per turn. So you don't even have to tribute Solitaire, but he can be a vital target for the tribute to special summon more out onto the field. But making use of all your other zombies means you can set them up in the graveyard to be banished by other cards. But the special summon target for just a zombie type tuner monster with 0 defense means we have options for other targets in the deck, like Unizombie, to go into for more and more graveyard setup. For some of the lower numbers, for the Shiranui monsters, I also run 2 Shiranui Samurai. It has a quick effect to let you banish a zombie monster from your graveyard to have it gain 600 attack, and if it does, banish any monster that battled this card after damage calculation. These effects last until the end of this turn. If this card's banished, you can target a Shiranui monster in your graveyard except for Samurai and add it to your hand. You can only use each effect of Samurai once per turn. So this is one of the cards where I'm running 2 of it, more for the fact that I like its banish effect more than its actual card effect on the field, because it can help to recycle any of the other Shiranui monsters we already spoke of in the video, giving you those cards to then reuse again with another additional normal summon onto the field, or even just that special summon of your resources back onto the field to reuse. And then for the last of the Shiranui non-tuners, I also run 1 Shiranui Swordmaster. If this card is sent to the graveyard, and if it's in your graveyard and you control 2 or more Shiranui monsters with different names, you can special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. And if it's banished, you can target 1 zombie monster you control, and it gains 600 attack until the end of this turn. So not only is it a powerhouse, but it can be used as a special summon resource to not only go into our synchro plays, but needing the 1 monster for our Link 3 Shiranui Skill Saga Supremacy, having 2 monsters on the field quite easily with cards like Squire or, Spirit Master to some of those monsters. And then if you just have Sword Master in the graveyard, that special summon again gives you the 3 monsters needed for either a higher level synchro summon or your go-to Link summon. For the tuners, I run 2 Shiranui Spectral Sword, one of the few cards with a non-banish effect, but it's more used for setting up those banish. If this card's in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there to the graveyard, you can target 1 non-tuner zombie monster you control in your graveyard, banish both it and this card. If you do special summon 1 zombie type synchro monster from your X deck whose level equals the level of those 2 monsters it had. You can only use this effect of Spectral Sword once per turn. So once again, being the target you go for Squire, it's why I'm only running 2 of this card. I would say the next tuner has more of the potential graveyard setup once we have our graveyard set up, but you can summon out Spectral Sword with Squire quite easily, then go for the level 6 synchro play, setting them up in the graveyard, or then using that in along with any other monster you have in your graveyard to banish to get out your additional synchro summon onto the field for those summons. And then you can use other cards like Shiranui Samurai to recycle it back to your hand to reuse, but its best place is in the graveyard, which can be set up with a good number of different zombies we run in the deck. And I also run, for the other Shiranui tuners, I run 3 Shiranui Spectral Sword Shade. You contribute this card to target 2 of your banished zombie monsters except for Spectral Sword Shade, including a Shiranui monster. Special summon them in defense, but their effects are negated. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn except for zombie monsters. You can only use each effect of Spectral Sword Shade once per turn. So this is another way to recycle your Shiranui Spectral Sword. Being able to distribute this card, then giving you the special summon back into the field. It is a level 3 tuner, so it works pretty well for some higher level synchro summons. For the level 7s, going for the level 6 plays with Squire and Spectral Sword, but using Shade to then summon out just 2 additional cards on the field also gives you the potential Shiranui Solitaire on the field to use for more tributes. For more of the generic zombie support that I run in the deck, I also run 3 Mizuki. With the discard draw power you have with Squire when it's banished, you can easily set up Mizuki in the graveyard to then banish this card and give you another special summon from the graveyard onto the field. The banish also works great because cards like Shiranui Spectral Sword Shade can then summon back Mizuki onto the field, negating its effects on the field, but then you'll use it for a extra deck play, setting up in the graveyard for the banish to go into. And then also I run 3 Unizombie, another tuner target with Shiranui Solitaire. And you can target one face-up monster on the field, discard 1 card. If you do, increase that card's level by 1. And you can target one face-up monster on the field. Monsters you control cannot attack for the rest of this turn except for zombie-type monsters. Also send 1 zombie-type monster from your deck to the graveyard. And if you do, increase that target's level by 1. So the level adjustment with Unizombie and also just being able to potentially set up more and more zombies in the graveyard is why I run 3 of this card. The level adjustment and the monsters not having too many restrictions except for zombie-type monsters for our synchro monsters make it a very, very useful monster in the deck to summon out. We just have all these different monsters to rely on for summoning, and the ease of Unizombie adjusting its levels, and just the easiness of special summoning zombies onto the field to use for those synchro plays. For the last of the monsters in the main deck, I thought of using Gozuki. If you have Gozuki, you can run it. I have 2 Samurai Skull. When it's normal summon, it just sends a zombie from your deck to the graveyard, so it can be another quicker way to summon and set up cards like Shiranui Swordmaster for the special summon, or even just to go for the option of setting up your Spectral Sword for the banish on the following turn, since you can't use it the turn it was sent there. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 of the Shiranui Style Solemnity. With this card, its name becomes Shiranui Style Synthesis while in the spell and trap card zone. Once per turn, you can activate one of the following effects. You can banish 1 zombie-type monster from your graveyard to normal summon and special summon 1 of your zombie monsters that cannot be negated for the rest of the turn. So not only that, it stops your opponent from negating those summons, or you can target 1 zombie monster you control, banish it, then you can send 1 zombie with 0 defense from your deck to the graveyard. So not only the important part is that this card is counted as Shiranui Style Synthesis, but it can set up more cards for the banish, giving you a zombie monster with 0 defense in your deck from your graveyard. For that use, you have plenty of options available to you with this card. The banish of a zombie monster from your graveyard also may set off one of the Shiranui monsters you banished with that card, but also just for the fact that it's just an easy continuous spell to make use of, and why we're running 3 of it in the deck. It's why I lowered my numbers of Shiranui Style Synthesis, the actual field spell in the deck, only running 1 of this card once per turn. If you control no monsters, you can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard to activate one of these effects. Not only can this set up zombies in your graveyard using it, but you can target a zombie monster with 0 defense in your graveyard, special summon it, or target one of your banished zombie-type monsters with 0 defense and return to the graveyard. This is another way to recycle your Shiranui Spectral Sword. If you want to mix around any of the ratios with the Shiranui Style Solemnity, you can add the 2 and 2 ratio. It's a thought I came across my head when making the deck, but I decided to go with just more of the lineup that I can use for more of the play styles I want to go for, with the banish and stopping of my opponent wanting to stop my bigger synchro plays. For more special summoning for these zombie monsters, which is a very big part of the deck altogether, I run 3 Book of Life. You target a zombie monster in your graveyard, and also 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon the first target and banish the other one. So it's like a small call by the grave, but also benefiting from you getting a monster. So not only can you take away from your opponent's resources, but you could also just gain your own resources to reuse on the field. And I also run 2 World Legacy Succession and 1 Monster Reborn for the rest of the spell lineup in the deck. You have plenty of Link monsters to make use of in the deck with the World Legacy Succession and Monster Reborn. Just like Book of Life, having 6 different cards that can special summon from the graveyard give you more and more resources on the field to make use of to go into the stronger and stronger synchro plays. And that is it for the spells. Moving on to the traps, I run 3 Shiranui style Swallow Slash. You tribute 1 monster type card on the field, then target 2 cards on the field, destroy them, then banish 1 Shiranui monster from your deck. You can activate 1 Shiranui style Swallow Slash once per turn. So not only will the tribute of the zombie type monster, which it could just be a generic zombie type, so if you have Mizuki, you can even go for that tribute. Target 2 cards on the field, destroying them, and then banishing 1 Shiranui monster from your deck. Not only will that give you the banish of a Shiranui monster, with meaning a potential additional destruction, set up in the graveyard some more. This card is just a great 3 of in the deck because once you set it up, you have that option to just destroy cards, but also still going for the main playstyle that the Shiranui deck is meant to do. And then lastly, just the 2 Shiranui style Success. Another power-up card. You special summon 1 zombie monster from your hand, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can banish this card from your graveyard to target 1 zombie monster you control, and it's unaffected by card effects this turn, except its own. And you can only use 1 Shiranui style Success effect per turn, and only once that turn. So this is a more defensive card. You have the destruction power with your Swallow Slash, but rely on style Success if your opponent were to go into an attack. Special summoning that zombie monster from your hand, and if it were to be banished, depending on the zombie type monster, a very troublesome play for your opponent to get around. And that is it for the main deck. When I move on to the extra deck, one of the easiest synchros to summon out in the deck is Shiranui Samurai Saga. With this card, you need 1 zombie-type tuner and 1 or more non-tuner zombie-type monsters. Once per turn, during either player's turn, you can target 1 of your banished zombie-type monsters, shuffle it into the deck. And if you do, change to defense all monsters your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to that monsters. And if this card is banished, this card target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, and it loses 500 attacks. So this is another way to recycle Spectral Sword to then keep using with Shiranui Squire, but it's a level 6 synchro monster, meaning once you set this card up, it can also be used with Spectral Sword in the graveyard for the banish to go into some higher synchro monsters. I also run 2 Shiranui Squire Saga, using Squire and also our Shiranui Spectral Sword Shade for the level 7 synchro play, having more destruction power with the fire monster you banish, or if it's a synchro monster, destroying a monster. With all these different banishes benefiting from cards like Samurai Saga, you have plenty to work with in this deck. The biggest thing is just to have the varying levels also. I also run 2 Shiranui, actually just the 1 Shiranui Sword Saga, a level 5 monster. You want to use the summon for this is Spectral Sword Shade, and also the 1 of non-tuner, which is our Swordmaster. Having this card can be set up with Swordmaster for the level 5 in the graveyard to use, and you can only special summon this card once per turn. If it's special summon, you target 1 monster on the field, change its battle position, and if this card's banished, you can special summon 1 Shiranui token onto the field. It's a more setup card for your resources you have. That's why I'm only running 1 of it in the deck. I also run 1, I keep messing up my numbers, it's so funny, 2 Shiranui Shogun Saga. This is your level 8 boss monster, and one of the stronger cards to go into. You need a zombie type tuner and 1 or more non-tuner zombie type monsters. If it's special summon, you can banish 1 zombie monster from your graveyard. This card gains attack equal to the banished monster's original attack until the end of this turn. And if this card in the field is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 of your banished zombie type monsters with 0 defense and special summon it from the graveyard. With this card returning it to the graveyard, you can only special summon Shiranui Shogun Saga once per turn. So this card, with the option of being destroyed, then can help you set up your Spectral Sword in the graveyard to then go into your next boss monster, which is your Shiranui Sun Saga, a higher level 10 monster in the deck, needing a zombie type tuner and 1 or non-tuner zombie type monsters. And if it's special summon, you can return any number of zombie synchro monsters that are banished or in your graveyard to the extra deck. Then you can destroy cards your opponent controls equal to the number of cards returned. So the more you go for your synchro plays, the stronger this card gets. I really feel you only need the 1 though, because once you summon it out, having a 3,500 attack point monster, and just with the powerhouse that Shogun Saga could potentially have been also, means you'd be hitting some pretty big numbers against your opponent. For more of the generic cards, I run 1 Red Eyes Zombie Dragon for the synchro level 7 plays to go into, with more power-ups and zombie special summoning resources. 1 Black Rose Dragon for the generic synchros when we can go into them. Same with Borreload Savage Dragon, having the other Link monsters we run in the deck as the additional options for this this card to target, with 2 of them being the Shiranui Skill Saga Supremacy. Synchro monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. Fire monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle, meaning your Shiranui Synchro monsters are pretty much protected with this card on the field. And also during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target one of your banished zombie Synchro monsters, special summon it to your zone this card points to, and you can only use this effect of Skill Saga Supremacy once per turn. But it's mostly used for the protection effects on the field. A Link 3 monster, which can be easily summoned out into the field with all these special summon resources we use in our main deck as well. For the other Link monsters, I just run 1 Duelito Chimera and 1 Heat of the Fire Charmer to finish off the firepower that the majority of the Shiranui zombie monsters we run in the deck revolve around. And then as for some of the go-to plays to make use of in the deck, my favorite being the Shiranui Squire play. So then what you'll do is you'll summon out your Shiranui Squire, using this card to then special summon out your Shiranui Spectral Sword. You'll then go into your level 6 Synchro play into your Shiranui Samurai Saga. Not only will this set up that play for that, but then you'll have the Spectral Sword in the graveyard ready to go next turn. And then if your opponent destroys the Samurai Saga next turn in your graveyard before you even draw any other cards, you can banish the Samurai Saga and your Spectral Sword to then summon out the Shogun Saga onto the field. And then you can use Shogun Saga with the cards that have been banished, targeting the banished zombie type monster in your graveyard. And this card gains attack equal to that banished type monster. But also, if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, target one of your banished zombie type monsters, which means you will then return your Spectral Sword to the graveyard with the destroyed Shogun Saga, then being able to banish these 2 to then go for your next powerhouse zombie monster, which is your Shiranui Sun Saga. Having all these different synchros in the deck to then return and then destroy those equal number of cards using your Sun Saga on the field against your opponents. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I was definitely happy that I finally got around to updating the Samurai Saga. It feels like Savage Strike was such a long time ago that it originally came out, and it definitely was. And as always, I'm always liking updating the zombie decks. I may look at Skull Servants in the near future as well, one being one of my favorites. We'll see, because it does feel like it's been recent since I updated. Blazing Vortex, I believe, was the last time I updated it. But still, the numbers always change, so an update could be due. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.